Test rounds of artillery ammunition are rolling off a new U.S. production line.
There's a surge in production. We're working as hard as we need to work to fulfill the requirements of the contract.
For Ukraine to buy more weapons.
War is good business for certain.
At the front lines in Ukraine, people are dying from the heavy shelling and hiding from the rain of bullets coming from everywhere, while the production lines in arms dealers' factories in the US are working at full steam. What is behind such enthusiasm for assisting Ukraine?
The weapons go to Ukraine, but the vast majority of the money comes right back into the U.S.
We are modernizing through the support that we're giving to the Ukrainians.
That's what President Biden's seeking to do.
It's correct. No Americans are getting killed in Ukraine. We're rebuilding our industrial base.
U.S. assistance to Ukraine has exceeded $170 billion US. A lion's share of it went into the pockets of the military-industrial complex. As the crisis escalates, European countries had also increased their defense budget, bringing in more money to the military-industrial complex. The U.S. remains the world's #1 arms dealer. In the last 5 years, U.S. arms exports accounted for 42% of the world's total. It's more than France and Russia combined, who are the second and third largest exporters. It is the insatiable hunger for profits of the military-industrial complex that drives the U.S. into war after war. The U.S. military-industrial complex is a super-vested interest group with arms dealers, the Pentagon, and Congress at its core, surrounded by the media, think tanks, lobby groups, and research institutes. Profits of war bind them together. The military-industrial complex first kidnapped the American economy during the Cold War, when most of the U.S. Fortune 500 companies became defense contractors. During the Cold War period, U.S. defense spending amounted to $10 trillion. With more money and power, the military-industrial complex has increasingly greater sway over matters of foreign policy and national security. This graph shows the military-industrial complex's influence over the U.S. government. This is how it works. Arms dealers give politicians money to run for office. In return, elected representatives approve fed defense budgets. Then the Pentagon gives the contracts to those arms dealers. Many senior military officers and Pentagon officials became lobbyists for the military-industrial complex when they retire or leave office. They collude with incumbent officers to ensure higher defense spending that goes hand in hand with wars and conflicts in different parts of the world. All that money comes from taxpayers and public debts. Record-breaking debts are a burden for the government, but a goldmine for weapons manufacturers. Money never sleeps. New York Times reported Mr. Biden hasn't helped matters by couching the conflict as a battle between democracy and autocracy and making few visible efforts to seek peace through diplomacy. He has appeared to ask other countries to sign up for an endless struggle.
They are pushing for the Ukraine conflict to continue. I mean, this is an economy based on destruction, which is terrible.
Certainly, it's not in the interest of weapons companies to see issues resolved diplomatically. It's in the interest of them to see it. At the very least, there could be military tension that requires arms buildups.
Arms dealers funded politicians, media, and think tanks fabricate and hype up stories and narratives to stoke conflicts and wars. The military-industrial complex is never about ending wars and bringing peace. It only goes after profit. American media reported that a bag of screws worth $100 maximum was sold to the Pentagon for $90,000. During the 20-year-long Afghanistan war, The stock returns of some major arms dealers have soared by 6 to 12 folds. Total asset of Lockheed Martin, for example, almost doubled and its annual profits increased by 10 folds. As arms dealers rake in profits, the US government is deeply mired in debt. The country owes some 35 trillion US dollars, which translates into 100,000 US dollars of debt for an average American. The military-industrial complex doesn't give a damn to the American economy as long as the Pentagon pays its bills. It only wants to keep the war machine running and money flowing.
Hey, firm. Fucking break. Come on, fire.
क्या काम करो मदद चाहिए अयोनिसियर ची मदद एक गुम हो गया अफगानिस्तान बहुत परेशान बहुत सच्ची काम करो
We want to live, we want peace, we want to judge the killers.
Fellow citizens, last night I ordered U.S. military forces to Panama
to disarm Iraq, to free its people.
The world's most dangerous regimes to threaten us with the world's most destructive weapons.
The United States is the world's terrorist. Your enemy is not China. Your enemy is not Russia. Your enemy is the military-industrial complex, which has been fleecing this country to the tunes of hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars. The war machine cannot be stopped. Who's running this country? The war machine. It certainly isn't Joe Biden making these decisions.